On a warm January afternoon in 2016, three friends planned a simple get-together at a trendy cafe in Jakarta. Laughter, conversation, and coffee were on the menu. But only minutes after taking a sip of her drink, one of them would collapse to the floor, never to wake up again. This is the shocking true story of Myrna Salihin, the woman whose last cup of coffee would ignite a media firestorm, a sensational trial, and a question that continues to haunt Indonesia to this day. It was January 6, 2016. Myrna Salihin, a 27-year-old woman from Jakarta, had just returned home from Australia after completing her studies. She was married to Arif Soamarko, a man she had recently wed just weeks earlier. That day, she had plans to meet up with two of her friends from college, Hani and Jessica. They chose the Olivier Cafe at Grand Indonesia Mall. A modern, stylish cafe. A safe, public place. Just before 3:30 p.m., Jessica Kumala Wongso arrived early. She wandered through the mall, shopped a little, and made a reservation. At 4:14 p.m., she returned to the cafe and ordered drinks for the group, including a Vietnamese iced coffee for Myrna. Then she waited. Security cameras showed Jessica placing shopping bags on the table right in front of the drinks. By 5:16 p.m., Myrna arrived with Hani. She was in good spirits, smiling, laughing. She sat down, took a sip of the iced coffee Jessica had ordered for her, and just minutes later, she collapsed, convulsing, foaming at the mouth, gasping for air. It happened so quickly. Panic set in. Jessica remained at the table while others tried to help. Her husband, Arif, rushed her to Abdi Waluyo Hospital. It was too late. At 6:30 p.m., Wayan Myrna Salihin was pronounced dead. Doctors were puzzled. What could have caused such a rapid reaction? It wasn't until January 10 that the results of an autopsy at Kramat Jati Police Hospital came in. There were signs of internal bleeding, particularly in the stomach. The suspicion, poison, and not just any poison, cyanide. The Indonesian National Police launched a full investigation. Attention quickly turned to Jessica. She had arrived first. She had ordered the drink. She had obscured the drinks with bags. And she had remained eerily calm during Myrna's collapse. For many Indonesians, the questions began swirling. Who was Jessica Kumala Wongso? Jessica wasn't a stranger to trouble. She had lived in Sydney, Australia for years. A graphic designer by trade, she had once been a permanent resident, but her time there wasn't without incident. The Australian Federal Police provided confidential documents to the Indonesian authorities, documents that painted a troubling picture. Jessica had a history of emotional instability. She was described as having suicidal tendencies and bouts of anger. There was even a restraining order filed against her by a former boyfriend, Patrick O'Connor, after a volatile breakup. Her ex-colleague, Christy Louise Charter, testified later that Jessica had two faces, manipulative, obsessive, and constantly craving attention. Was Jessica's bubbly, calm exterior just a mask? Relationship with Patrick, telling her that he wasn't good for her, that advice had apparently struck a nerve. Investigators needed a motive. According to Myrna's family, Myrna had once advised Jessica to end her relationship. Jessica was said to have held a grudge. She never forgave Myrna for interfering in her love life. And the prosecution claimed that Jessica, consumed with resentment and emotional instability, meticulously planned her revenge. Myrna's twin sister, Sandy, revealed that Jessica had sent her strange messages about poison after Myrna's death. It seemed chilling, too coincidental to ignore. On January 30, 2016, police formally charged Jessica with the premeditated murder of Myrna Salihin. The news spread like wildfire. Indonesia was gripped. Jessica was dubbed the Cyanide Killer by the press. The case had all the makings of a media circus, two young women, an upscale mall, and a deadly betrayal. The public was captivated. TV stations broadcast the proceedings live. Social media exploded with theories, debates, and conspiracies. Cafes and homes across the country were glued to their screens as if it were a crime drama, only this one was tragically real. The trial began on June 15, 2016, and it would last for nearly 5 months. Jessica pleaded not guilty, her defense argued that there was no concrete evidence she put cyanide in the coffee. They pointed to the lack of cyanide in Myrna's stomach during later tests, and suggested contamination or improper evidence handling. But the prosecution fought back hard. They claimed Jessica had ample time and opportunity. She had deliberately arrived early. She had obscured the drinks. She had a motive. And she had a volatile psychological profile. Experts were brought in. Forensics analysts, toxicologists, psychiatrists. It became a battle of science, perception, and public opinion. In court, every moment was scrutinized: Jessica's body language, her facial expressions, her tears or lack of them. Some Indonesians were convinced of her guilt. Others sympathized with her, seeing her as a scapegoat in a flawed justice system. The media didn't help. Tabloid-style coverage fueled speculation. TV stations reenacted scenes, interviewed psychologists, and even showed coffee-making demonstrations. It wasn't just a trial, it was a spectacle, and Jessica Wanso became a household name. On October 27, 2016, after 135 days of testimony, the court delivered its verdict. Jessica Kumalo Wanso was found guilty of premeditated murder. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison. The judges agreed with the prosecution that Jessica had poisoned Myrna's coffee out of revenge, and that she had acted with intent and careful planning. Myrna's family wept in the courtroom. Justice, they felt, had been served, but the debate didn't end there. Jessica's legal team immediately filed an appeal. They claimed the case lacked hard evidence, that the amount of cyanide wasn't clearly established, that there were flaws in the forensics, but the Jakarta High Court rejected the appeal. Then came the Supreme Court, Indonesia's final legal authority. 3 justices reviewed the case: Artijo Alkastar, Salman Luthan, and Sumardi Atmo. They unanimously upheld the verdict. Jessica's fate was sealed. 8 years passed, and on August 18, 2024, Jessica Kumalo Wanso was granted parole. She had served nearly half her sentence. Her release reignited public interest in the case. Supporters and critics clashed once again. Had justice truly been served? To this day, many Indonesians still debate the case. Some believe Jessica is guilty beyond doubt. Others argue she was a victim of media trial and circumstantial evidence. What's undeniable is this: Wayan Myrna Salihin lost her life in a brutal, sudden, and senseless way, and the case continues to linger in the national memory, a haunting reminder of how friendship, jealousy, and a single sip of coffee can change everything. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of Indonesia's most chilling true crime stories. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more real-life mysteries and courtroom dramas. Stay safe and never take a coffee from someone you don't trust.